All right, welcome to Wealth Cartel, where hindsight's a motherfucker.
Our mission is to stop people saying, I wish I had a listen, and to help people capitalize on everyone else's mistakes before making them themselves.
In summary, our tagline says it all: turn our hindsight into your foresight.
So we're just a couple of lads from the west and the central coast who grew up without really any wealth around us and used it to motivate us to make something of ourselves.
Along the way, mainly as we matured, we did a lot of things right, but more importantly, we made a lot of mistakes.
A lot of mistakes that could have been avoided by not being know-it-alls and actually listening to what others had told us instead of thinking, no, not me. So my name's Akko. I'm a small business owner with a bunch of franchises called Pen on Picasso at the moment, with large plans of building a large business portfolio.
I'm Kingy. I'm a financial advisor looking to break the mold on what good advice should look like and start teaching people how to enjoy life to the fullest while also planning for tomorrow out of my business, 3 Kings Wealth Management.
I love that hat, Dan. All right, and we are on. All right, welcome to Wealth Cartel episode 18. It's our second last one for the year, and we have the awesome Danielle Weber. If you haven't seen her page, I shared it this morning. I'll tag it again. Amazing artwork, full-time artist, which first and foremost I think is amazing. I think there's a small percentage of people that actually get to the position they become full-time artists, and that's phenomenal. I love that. Danielle's artwork is her business, and she's part owner of one of the Pinots down in Melbourne. She's a full-time artist and has done works for the Rock and Big Arnie, which is fucking crazy just to say. How was the Rock? Did you meet the Rock? Was he good to go?
I did, yeah.
He's friends with him, bro. He writes happy birthday messages on her wall and shit. Not even a fucking
Get out of here. Can you just next time you just tag the podcast and say the bloke in the top right loves you? Like he's got a
Hey, we'll just a quick story before Dan goes into it. So with The Rock, Dan and I were talking one day and she was like, I don't understand how people say they've got no time. I just can't explain it. So The Rock looks after his own Insta. And like, imagine how fucking like, imagine how.
Yeah, well, he needs to slow down because he's been pumping a few too many tequilas lately. I think he's loving the tequilas. I want to get that. Actually, you're our person. Can you get some of that tequila? I'll break my sober streak.
I said that to him. I'm like, it's been like a year, surely.
Yeah.
They would have gotten it to Australia.
It looks amazing. I love tequila. So
I should just ask him to send me some.
Yeah, send heaps.
Sick of waiting.
I'll break my sober streak for that, 100%. And then the last thing that we'll say about, do you want Dani, Danielle, Dan? What do you want?
Anything, whatever. Dan. We got one Dan, so you've got to make it different. Otherwise, it's.
All right, we'll say Dani. All right, so the best thing we've heard so far about Dani is that she's stoked that she's free in Melbourne with no restrictions. So we'll get into a bit of that today. You can see behind her, she's got we've got a logo behind me, and we've got her works behind her. Now Elvis is under the spotlight there a bit, so you can't see the full work. But have a look at her page, check it out. She's that line painting you did was phenomenal. That one I love that.
The best one you got to see is the Terminator on the wall, bro.
The massive one.
The Terminator
it's gone, been painted over. Sorry to shoot you down, but yeah.
Are you serious?
That's the nature of the beast with that sort of work. It doesn't generally have a long lifespan.
Does it bother you? Like, because you get paid for it, you do it, and then like just whatever.
Not anymore. It used to. I was like, oh my god, you put it in that work, and then you just get it painted over, and especially because people would come to me after I'd finished it and be like, can I go see it? And I'm like, oh, it's awkward, it's gone.
That's a cool mindset though, because I talked this funny with my mum. Right? My mum's looking at renovating her house and selling it.
Yeah.
And she's like, but if I sell it, someone might knock it down. I'm like, who cares?
Yeah, it is what it is. Like, you do it.
You got paid.
Move on. See you later. Yeah. So
you know what you should do? You should put a clause in your contract that if you're going to paint it, they also have to pay you to paint over it.
I reckon it'd be harder painting over my own work.
Yeah, that'd be fucking bullshit. You just pay that'd be shit ass.
I've only ever had to do that once, but I was like redoing it, and it wasn't like the greatest, so I didn't mind painting over it. But I think if I had to paint over something I just finished, I'd be like, oh. Whereas if like might never matter, like don't know who's doing it and whatnot, that's better, I think. But yeah I even feel bad painting over other artists' work. So
do you have a studio and stuff, or do you what?
Yeah, so I mean, this is just a home studio at the moment, but I'm settling on a new studio next week, which is super exciting because I've sort of been going at this business for 10 years, and I've like leased out a few studios, but I haven't had like a set spot where I've had my office and studio in one. So but
We'll have
like
to come down for a chip and check it out. Make sure you get up and running by the time we get down there. That'd be mad.
Yeah, no, it will be.
Are you going to do any pop-ups in the studio? That'd be cool.
I think I will. I'll settle in first. And my problem is about pop-ups is like I generally don't have a body of work because everything sells quite quickly, which isn't a bad problem to have, but it'd probably be something I need to work on over a year and then do something like an exhibition or whatnot. But I think I probably will have it in my space. That'd be cool.
I'd be 100% leveraging Pinot. I'd be doing Pinot pop-ups in there, and then just when everyone's absolutely full to the brim of alcohol, just sell my own. Yeah, you want that
one? Don't even joke about that. They do that, bro. They do it in Newey. Like Newcastle have 3 different studios, like 3 different Pinot studios now. They got Mitch Rev's gallery, which is sick. Have you been there, Dan?
No, I haven't. No.
It's fucking cool, eh? He's a real sort of quirky artist. He paints.
Yeah, his work's so cool. Love his work. So I follow him.
They run sessions out of there. Then they've got a separate studio. They've actually got 3 separate spaces.
Crazy.
Like it fucking pumps there, eh? Like
that's
Newcastle
crazy.
pumps.
Yeah.
Cracks.
It's really good. So.
All right, Dani, tell us. So we've introduced you a little bit there. Tell us a bit about who you are, where you're from, what life was like growing up, and you know the mindset you took on and that kind of stuff, and sort of how you got to where you are today, and then we'll go into the hindsight stuff after that.
Cool. Fun. As we've learned, my name's Danielle. Turning 28 next month. Oh, this month actually. We're in December. So, bit of a baby. Been an artist for about 10 years now. Born and bred in Melbourne. Sort of from as long as I can remember, probably 3 years old. I picked up a pencil and I was drawing, and everything was art and hands-on. Sport was a massive part of my life as well. Still is. And when I finished school, I was a bit of a rough teenager, hung out with wrong people, didn't really know what I wanted to do. Bit of a menace, and but fortunately, like I actually still did pretty well at school, which enabled me to go to university, got into health sciences, and did a double degree in that and arts. And then hated studying art, wanted to be a food scientist, but ended up an artist. So the irony in that, I don't know. It's a bit strange. But and here I am, 10-year journey. My art journey's been about 10 years. Sort of built up my business while I was at university. And here I am talking to you guys.
So how many years was your business started? Did you start when you went to uni, or did you do all the uni first?
Yeah, so it sort of evolved. While I was studying, I was working a few other jobs, and obviously you're not going to make a lot out of your art when you start. So it was something that I just built up. As I was at uni, I was there for 5 years. By the time I left, I sort of, and meeting the Rock sort of put that in concrete for me, that it was something that I was going to give a real good crack, give it a crack, and that it'd be something that I'd probably stick to. So I had my doubts, like anyone does, especially in a creative industry. It's pretty inconsistent. It's pretty hard to make a go of it. But yeah, I guess, a few little incidents like meeting people at the Rock and whatnot just sort of set.
Let's touch on that a bit, because I believe, right, and I'm not in, my family's pretty artsy ourselves, and I'm surrounded with a few artists in my life. And the thing that I say about that is a lot of them, not many make it, right? Many make it to the point they can get full-time. A lot of them do it on the side, and they're graphic designers for a full-time
It's all job. Freelance, bro. It's all.
That's right.
They're one love, but their third job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I want to get out of you sort of today is, because you're living the dream that a lot of people, like I know so many people that do the whole, I'd love to be an artist, but I just can't,
Yeah.
put in. And so where was the mindset? You said meeting the Rock, but what was the mindset shift? Kind of what happened where you went, you know what, this is me and I'm going to have a crack? And what struggles did you overcome, and how did you overcome them to really get to where you are now?
It's interesting you say that. I think I'll just touch on artists in general. I think there's a couple of things as if, that artists sort of have their own style and they don't want to compromise, or they may not be business minded. So I think there's the two main factors.
I love that you just said that.
Yeah. So I think, and look, a lot of them are good at putting their hand up and saying, I'm not great at this. Like, I need someone to help me with my business. Fortunately enough, I'd say that I've lost, I'm not as incredibly creative as a lot of artists, but I have that business mindset. So I'd prefer to sort of compromise.
They're hard to mix. The creative mindset and the business mindset are two completely opposite things. Yeah. And people can be great artists, but they don't know how to run a business, and they can't keep their name out there.
Yeah, which is more common than what I don't really know a lot of artists. I don't really have a lot of artist friends that can effectively run a business. So Yeah, so I'd say that luckily, you know, and whether or not it's my education and my further education that helped me, I guess, you know, acquire these skills to be able to run a business and grow. Could be, I don't know, it could just be the personality that I have. I'm not sure. So yeah, so the fact is.
So would you say you're more business minded than you were creative at the start?
Yeah, I'd say I've always been probably both, and now I'm probably more business minded than what I am creative.
I think it's important for people to understand too. It's massively important for people to understand that we use this expression quite a bit. If you're the best chef in the world, but you're only cooking for your family, essentially no one's going to know about you. You know what I mean? So if you're if you're an artist and you're a great artist, you've got to be seen, and people are so reluctant to do that. And I feel like what you do really well is understand the consumer and the market. Like when I look at your artwork, I dare say there's so many different styles incorporated into one. But one thing that's really going is like it's trendy at the time, and people are going to buy it.
And people
like
can relate to it.
Like the McGregor stuff, the biggest stuff's never going to get old if you can do that sort of stuff really well. And and then you look at the stuff like the Mario, that side of things as well. Like that right now, like that's so big in regards to the fact that people are buying Nintendos, old Nintendos for 20 grand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're painting their childhood. I feel like that is huge to be able to understand your market and your consumer and who's going to purchase. Yeah. Like it's one thing to be a great artist, but if you can't sell it to anyone, what's the fucking point?
Yeah, or being able to compromise. And I guess that's my main point too, is that a lot of artists like, nope, this is my style, I'm going to run with it. But at the end of the day, like, do I want to paint and make a living? Yes. So I'm going to compromise. You know, obviously I still pick and choose and I make sure that I enjoy the work that I do, but it's, you know.
That's it. How do you do that?
Look, here's one of Dani's works, guys. This is how good she is. Look at this. I love animals. Like I love animal art, and like that's capturing the beauty of a creature like a lion, but making it look powerful as well is phenomenal. It just blows my mind. Like fucking
draw a fucking meerkat.
Rah, a big scary meerkat. Rah. I'll be the biggest meerkat on earth, I swear. But I will make a quick note. I just realised Dani is actually our most followed person on Instagram that we've had on. So you're our biggest influencer today.
It's got to be the most followed artist in Australia. It'd have to be.
Easily. But for us, I think you've just topped.
Nah, there's a few more. There's a few that are got bigger followings than me.
We're never going to do podcasts with them.
No, we don't. We don't competitors.
There's a few like other abstract artists and whatnot that have a few. I don't know. Actually, I've never taken notice of that. I have to go check. Do my research.
You'll have to suss that out there.
So, can you pinpoint a point? You said meeting the rock, right? Is that the thing, or is there other parts you can pinpoint that really switched your head over to go, you know what? Let's back ourselves and have a crack.
I think what people need to understand is that, like, you know, no matter where you are in your career, like even now I still have my days where I'm like, am I going to be able to do this? Like, it doesn't matter how successful I am or how many big jobs and I take on, or, you know, how many, I guess, you know, like highlights in my career that I have, you're still going to have those doubts. And I'm totally okay with that. So there was never a moment where I'm like, yep, this is exactly what I'm going to do and it's going to be forever. So I may have had those like small realizations that I wanted to, you know, give it a crack and perhaps like this is what I was going to do and not give up until I, you know, get where I want to be. But in saying that, you always want more anyway. So, but yeah, when I was at university, I guess, and at school, like I always, and as everyone knows, was sort of told that if you're an artist, you're going to be a starving artist. You're not going to make a living out of your art. It's impossible, you know, and
look at me now. Look at it now.
Yeah. So and yes, I started getting busy while I was at university and I was still like, I don't know, because it is inconsistent, you know, like it's, when you talk about your earning capacity, you could be earning 100 grand in 1 month and then nothing for the next year. So it's really like, it's so inconsistent. So you need to like realize that no matter where you are, it's always going to be like that. But yes, meeting The Rock, he basically, or I guess essentially said, you know, you'd be silly not to pursue this. As a talent, he obviously saw something.
What a guy, eh?
Give it a crack. Like, yeah. So
there's no more success story than The Rock, is there?
No.
But I've heard like so many different interviews where people have met him where he's just gone out of his way to ensure they understand the capacity that they have. Like I've read a lot about him meeting people and them like making them feel like they're worth it, and that he seems like he's really that type of dude.
It's actually unreal. I was like, when I met him, I was asking questions about him, but he literally he was just asking about me, my family, and I was just like, I don't want to talk about my family. Like, I want to ask you questions. So he's so selfless like that, and yeah, genuinely has an interest in.
And that's something I've always wondered about him. I've always wondered if it was a front, like if he was legit like that in real life, and it doesn't seem like it is, but you're like, come on, man, you can't be that on all the time.
Yeah.
You can't just be that nice, yeah.
But everyone that meets him says the same thing, that he is. That's exactly what he is. I think that's a really good point you brought up, and I love that. My business and Dan's, we're very open, especially podcasts, about being transparent, right? Like, we don't, the Instagram's full of people that makes it look like every day is a good day, but I really love what you said. Like, I have days I wake up and I'm like, I'd love a job right now. I'd love just to go back and someone tell me what to do. But, it's really important that people see it's not all rainbow and roses, but you've got to have the pros outweigh the cons, and you've got to have that passion overweigh the heartbreak, you know what I mean? And if you can, and part of that is having that business mindset. If you know where you're heading, it's easier to overcome those days as well, because you know why you're getting out of bed, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just touched then on family with The Rock. You said something about how he asked about your family. Was your family a big sort of inspiration to you to be artists? Did your family artsy?
Yeah, definitely. I wasn't going to pursue it, and my parents basically said, humor us, like, you're doing it. I was just going to do solely health sciences.
Humor us.
Just do it. But yeah, so if it wasn't for my mum and my parents, I would not have been an artist. No way.
That's amazing. That's a very uncommon story, I believe.
Yeah, definitely.
I especially for artists, my mum was very supportive. My parents were very supportive, but they weren't very supportive. Like, my mum wasn't very supportive in what I wanted to do when I wanted to join the army or do this. She was like, no, go to uni, do this. She was supportive of me as a person, but not just sort of trying to protect me. So that's amazing, because that's probably one of the, next to probably being a fighter, that's probably one of the riskiest sort of avenues to go down and try and make it.
It is, yeah. Wow. It's pretty rare too to be able to make it. So yeah.
You guys got pushed into uni. You got pushed into art. My mum was like, just stay out of jail. Just fucking 100%. She legitimately was like, you're too smart to go to jail. Stop fucking up. Find something you like to do and do it. Yeah. But I feel like a lot of people do. So a lot of entrepreneurs, they go against what they're taught. But it's always so crazy to hear of certain people where you have got that support, what it can do for you. My mum said to me, if you want to be a footy player, be a footy player, but be a wholeheartedly one. You don't work and play footy. It's one or the other. This is at 16.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'd just been expelled from school, and she was like, what are you doing? Are you going to play footy or are you going to work? And I was like, well, I don't really feel like I'm good enough. Like, I was okay, but there was other people that were better. And she was like, all right, sweet. And I started a job the next day, and I've worked ever since. Yeah. But she still had a big, she was still, influence regardless of, regardless of what I was doing wrong, it was, I always did it for her. It was always I'll do what mum says is best.
Still
even though you don't listen.
Yeah.
We don't listen to majority of things, but when you look back, there's always one thing where you go, I've got mum to thank for that. Because
I always say, I'm like, mums are always right. Like, even younger gen now that I talk to, and they're like, oh, but my parents, and I'm like, they're always right. Yeah.
Sometimes. Mum, if you're watching this, sometimes.
Yeah, always right.
But you know that they are right.
But I think I wish I had. If my mum was like, if I wanted to be an artist, and mum was like, go be, you should be, I'd be like, cool. So if I failed, I'd be like, your fault. I would have backed myself 100%. Your fault, mum. I'm going to stay at home until I'm 50.
What are you talking about? Yeah.
I'm not paying rent. It's your fault.
I'm still staying at home until I'm 50, so don't worry.
100%. No, financial advice 101. If you can stay at home, stay at home.
Stay at home. Thank you.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. That's the best financial advice ever, but the worst fucking advice for a person like me. I'm staying at home thinking, fucking hell, what am I doing here? I lived in a house by myself when I was 16 in a unit in Blacktown, and I tell you what, I begged to go home to my mum, but as soon as I get back there, I'm like,
okay, let's go again.
Yeah, I moved out when I was about 17 or 18. I just jumped up and moved, and I haven't been back home since. And I liked it, I enjoyed it. But my sisters now, they're 21, and one of them's getting ready to move out now, and I was like, you don't understand. Like, you're paying $50 a week rent, because mum was like, I'm going to up the rent to the board to 100. And she's like, I'm moving out. And I was like, do you understand how expensive it is? Like,
no idea.
I was like, I'll pay you $100 to stay home. I was like, what are you doing?
Exactly. Oh, I say that too. Like I said, because I have friends that are still living at home too. And I said, look, if it's not allowing you to grow get out. Like if you don't get along with your family, it's in a toxic environment, get out. But my attitude is like literally still living at home allows me to grow. I've just purchased my first property elsewhere. And it gives me more time, like, you know, things like helping with meals and things like that.
Yeah.
It gives me more
You
time
got to
to
wait
grow
up.
my business. So it works at the moment. So not saying I'll be here for the next 10 years, but, you know.
But then obviously you've obviously got a supportive household and families from that. So if you're at home and it's toxic and you can't, then there's no amount of money that makes sense not to get out. And that independent, like I said to my sisters, you know, I said to mum, just kick them out. Like they need some, because they're at home, mum still does a lot. Mum, and it's affecting mum, you know, like mum's doing all the washing and all that stuff. And, And I said,
I do all my washing, don't worry.
even the independent side. Yeah. I don't do my washing now.
I'm not touching. I do everything else but the washing. Zero. And if 100%, I can't do it. I fucking hate it. I don't like it at all.
You've got 14 kids, bro. That's heaps of washing.
that
is a lot of washing.
Even if B doesn't do it, I'm like, hey, mum, what are you doing Friday? Right, son,
Gonna do some washing?
You want to come over and hang out with your favourite child?
Dan gives his mum free shares in our horse where every time she washes. He's like, give me another %. Just come and wash.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Do you tell her that she's going to do washing before you get there, or you just bring it on?
Lines up. Ambush!
It's telepathic, Dan. She knows what I want.
Okay, that's good.
She knows.
I
I don't have to ask. I'll just say, hey, mum, come
Happy
over.
Friday, mum. Here's like 10 loads of washing.
I just gave her a jet ski for Christmas. So that's another couple of years of washing made up.
Done. That's a good payment. I'd take that. Probably not too
I didn't hear that.
No, I gave her my old one. But I didn't want to sell it. I felt like it was wrong to sell when I could have just given it to her and my little sister, and they could have had days up the river. So instead of, and that was always sort of plan was to help.
Well, can you upgrade your new one and give me this new one now too? I'm next. Surely I'm next on the list. Surely I'm next on the list.
We've already had this conversation. I don't pay you, and I'm not paying you.
No, bullshit.
Married couple, here we go again.
He gets the best financial advice in the world and pays nothing for it.
Yeah, well, that's why you're my wife. You're supposed to look after my money.
Already. All right, moving on. So, Dani, looking at your journey, like I'm really intrigued by your journey. It's actually a really good one. And can you like we talked about times and pinpointing that sort of stuff, but was there any? So let me preface with this. So this is a part of the hindsight stuff we talk about. It's really difficult for a lot of people like us because we would never change, even the bad stuff. We wouldn't change what happened because it made us who we are today, right? And that's sort of the hard things. We're not trying to say go back and take the easy route, but we're just trying to give an insight into next generation or just other people and things that they could sort of open their mind about and consider that maybe it might have gotten you ahead faster, right? But we've obviously don't want to take away anything. So from your journey, is there any really good things or any really bad things that you could go back and highlight that you might change or that you can identify that really got you to where you are that you would go back and as a lesson sort of pass on and say, this is something that was huge for me?
Yeah. I'm with you guys in a sense that I wouldn't change anything. And I never have any regrets or should have done that. Because I just feel like everything you go through and whatnot and your journey shapes the person that you are and like allows you to grow. So wouldn't change anything. Of course, there's been like, I think some of the other difficulties that I found is that I am in a male dominant industry. So I've perhaps faced
really
the street art world and the art world is very male dominant. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, I guess there's been things, probably comes down to confidence too and standing up and being like, no, fuck you. I'm getting paid the same. I do the same amount of work. So maybe perhaps, these transitions and these things that I've learned have taken me a little bit longer to get there. But in hindsight, like everything happens for a reason. So, you know, and that's one of the things that The Rock says to me too. It's not a race. It's just, you know, steady does it. So I always have to remind myself of that as well. So, look, I think my support network around me has been like key to getting where I am and sort of having that like, yeah, as we mentioned, like there's a lot of lows and there's a lot of like hard, I guess, things that you face, especially in something in a career so inconsistent. So yeah, I literally just talk it out, like rant to my family and my partner all the time. So having that support network there has sort of like, yeah, I guess maybe not fast tracked me, but sort of made sure that I don't really get like lost behind in the pack. And
do you feel like you could have lent on them more? Like, do you feel like there was any point where you took it for granted that you could go back and think, now you see how much it's helped, that maybe if you understood that earlier, we talk about mums are always right, and there's heaps of times where I wouldn't change anything, but I was like, shit, I could have listened to mum on that. She was right on that. Is there any times like that maybe you think about?
My big thing was asking for help. I'd be whether it's an ego thing, but yeah, looking back, like realizing how much people ask me for help, I'm like, holy crap, like I actually never asked for these things. I never just messaged people and was like, hey, can you like help me with this, or tell me how you did this? I'd just like figure it out myself. So yeah, looking at that, then probably I would have fast tracked a lot, and I didn't use the resources that I had because I'd just be like, no, I'm going to do it myself. Just going to figure it out myself.
Yeah.
Whereas, so probably putting my hand up and asking people, and
That's
I mean,
a good
like,
one,
if you don't ask, you don't get.
I love that, because that's not something you regret or change, but that's a great lesson. That's brilliant.
Lesson learned. Yeah, definitely with that. And more so now, because I think sometimes, not that I get resentful, but I'm like, people are like sucking the information and the life out of me, which I'm so happy to do. But I'm like, I feel like I didn't use that, or lean on that when I was, finding my way. So.
And it is that you do learn, like when you do things yourself, you learn. But like I always, someone told me when I was younger, about being a sponge, take in every bit of information, ask it as much information you can, but pull the bits that work for you and create your own thing that's best from all that. And that probably was the one thing that fast-tracked me really well, because, but if I didn't hear that earlier on, I even do it now. I'll be sitting around like, no, someone's like, you should do this. I'm like, no. And then I'm like, hang on, just stop for a second.
Yeah.
Let's take in what they're saying. Let's pull some pieces out of it.
Yeah.
I think that's really good. And I actually love that, because a lot of people think we're talking about regrets and stuff, but that's something that you still did, but you could, looking back, you go, okay, I could have done a bit of that. That's brilliant. I really like that.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's one of those things when you're younger where someone says to you, that's a stupid question. I always hated that. I always feel like when you're at work, there's no such thing as a stupid question. We try to tell our staff that, where it's like, instead of sitting there and not knowing and making everyone else aware of what you're doing, just fucking tell us and we'll sort it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to like apologize for asking questions, like, oh, sorry if it's a stupid question. Now I'm just like, like I was emailing someone before and I was just like, fire away. I don't even care if these sound stupid. Like, I've come to you because it's your job and you're an expert in this. So whether or not, I don't really care if I look stupid or not, because I don't know. Like, I'm asking you for that reason. So because I put my
it's like saying sorry to your financial advisor for trying to ask him to look after your money. It's dumb.
Yeah.
Like, that's what he's there for.
Exactly.
That's right. And I think that's I've learned from, I've started at the gym lately. Like I stand around, when you see, like you said, you're into sport and stuff, Dani, you see people and like someone bigger will take that leap of faith and go into the gym and people sort of judge them. It's like, what are you doing here? Like, and they're just trying to have a crack.
Yeah.
I've really changed my mentality the last 18 months around that. And last few weeks, especially, I've been like, when I'm in the gym, especially when it's quiet and there's like a young kid in there and he's having a crack and you can tell they're nervous. Now, because I remember back then, not just business, gym, whatever, life, how many times you're like, you should be asking the question, but you're just nervous. Yeah. So I've been taking the step now from business and mainly in the gym as well, is walking over and giving, like, making sure they want to. Just sort of going, hey, mate, are you comfortable with that? And I'm not a PT, I don't do that, but I've been training my whole life. And I love it. It's really sparked a bit in me seeing, and people are so grateful for it, and people are so scared to ask. I think it's amazing. If you're scared to ask, then as an expert or as a seasoned vet in whatever area, you sort of have an obligation to try and look out and help the community as well in that front.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what you were trying to do when we were playing golf? That you just kept asking me so I could help you? Is that what you were doing? You weren't nervous anymore. You're like, Dan, there's no stupid question. Can you teach me how to putt?
Hey, listen, I'm going straight from here to the golf course and I'll send you my score.
Sounds like this golf thing's a serious deal between
He's got he'll always win when I'm not there, Ryan. He's a better scorer than he's a player.
No,
one of them.
No, not one of them. I'm a very fair player. I just had a shocking round when we played. But then on the weekend, I just qualified out of 200 players. I just qualified, I think, 7th in the tournament match play.
But I wasn't there, bro.
I don't know.
I'll film all day today. I'll film the whole round.
How was the big transition, Dan? Like, obviously, you had to diversify your brand a little bit during COVID. Now that we're back up and opening, do you feel like you're in a better position than before COVID?
Yeah, I think this was a period of time where obviously there's a lot of sad circumstances, so I'm not taking away from that at all. But I feel like, you know, this might sound a bit savage. Back in the day, there was no governments to help anyone. The strongest got through and the weak pack got left behind. So I think I have a little bit of an old school mentality where like you either level up and double down and work harder to get through, you know, better or if not the same on the other end, or you sit there and you feel sorry for yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm in a very lucky position where I live with my parents, so I understand that, you know, I'm not saying that like, oh, poor me, like, you know, so.
Yeah, but that's rubbish. Don't say that about yourself, because that's a business decision, right?
Yes, exactly.
Your business mind is what has got you through, because you set yourself up on, okay, what can I give up to support my business better? And part of that is living with your parents. So don't say that's lucky. That's not lucky at all. That's
no. So it's a
conscious
choice.
decision you've made. 100%.
Definitely. So I just don't want people looking back, oh, she can't comment.
Nah, stuff them. If they're going to sit there and be victims elsewhere.
You're not allowed to say stuff them. We've got 1,500 followers. She's got 350,000. She's got to worry about these people.
No, that's fine.
Welcome to World Cartel.
Welcome. No, I just want to be conscious of the fact that there are families in
going
now,
through.
And I do have friends who have in really, really hard positions. So, but in saying that, when we went back into the second lockdown, or maybe it was even the first one, I felt sorry for myself for about a week, and I was like, poor me, everyone else is out, you know, like blah, blah, blah. And then I was just like, no one gives a fuck. Like no one actually cares what you're going through, how much you feel sorry for yourself. I was worried. Yes, I was worried. I was like, okay, an artist is not an essential business. Like, how am I going to get through this? If people are going to be looking at their finances, you know, they're not going to be like, oh, let's like spend $20,000 on a mural. But in saying, so I sort of like, okay, well, how can we shift? Like, how can we actually open opportunities that I haven't had time to do before, or I haven't even considered, because I've just been, you know, running the rat race and like smacking out as many murals and pieces as I can. So I stopped, I did puzzles, I did some t-shirts, I expanded my business, and sort of was a bit of a test of where I want to take it next year when I'm set up properly. So doubled down, worked hard, haven't had a break in 14 months, which is the longest I've ever gone without going away or getting away. So wouldn't change it. It is what it is. What's happened to the world's happened. It's not going to be the same for a while. Shift, adapt. I've noticed that, you know, another thing that people are sort of craving education and online courses. So I've started working on a course. And you know, obviously I sort of wiggled my way around, and I was a painter for a few months. So, you know, and people message me like, how are you working? I'm like, when there's a will, there's a way, mate. I'm not going to sit. I don't get government assistance. I'm not going to sit on my ass.
Painter like house painter, so you're painting houses.
Yeah.
You were not.
No, but I was painting murals, but I was painting houses.
I'm a painter.
Because we were in full lockdown, so I was technically not supposed to be working. So
but
painter, and I have all the tickets. My attitude is like, I have all my insurances, I've got all my protection, I've got all my tickets under the sun. But then when it came down to the crunch time, I wasn't allowed to work. So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to work safely. I'm going to do it properly, and I continued to move through. Very in mind, my dad also works for me as well. So.
$5,000 worth of tools. I was the same. I said exactly the same thing to B. I was like, I can't not work. Hey, I can't. Like Pinot Terrigal had closed down. Both the Sparkling White Smile had shut. Yeah. I was like, fuck me. I can't. Like, I don't know when we're going to open again. I can't do this. So I went and bought my plastering tools again, and I was actually in Melbourne. I was in.
Thanks for the heads up.
I was in country Victoria.
Okay.
I was in country Victoria building a pet stock, and like I worked for about 4 or 5 weeks back on the tools, doing something like I hated being on the tools, but actually it was actually quite nice to get back and actually do something with your hands.
It did wonders for you, bro.
Massively. I come back and I was like, never again am I doing that. I need to find other shit to do to make money, because I fucking hate that job.
Good. Well, and that's for a reason. You know what you do and what you don't want. Simple as that. Like, but you made it work during that time. Like,
yeah,
it was amazing. It was actually sitting there talking to him though, Dani. Like, it was amazing because Dan had moved away. Like, we've been on this whole journey together with Pino, and Dan had moved away from the tools to starting this business because he hated being on the tools. But I'll put it out there now on the podcast. I believe that he started questioning, like he was questioning himself a bit, like around the business stuff. Like, I'm not sure what I'm doing. And when he jumped on the tools and when he pulled the trigger to do it, you see something change in Dan, being like, I can do whatever I need to do to get by. And I think it sparked Pino, his business after it, when he sacrificed going down and working on the tools and coming back. The ideas he had for Pino and everything, like, it sparked a whole new thing in him, showing himself he still had that in him to do what needed to be done. It was really good.
That's the beauty of it. And would you, like, if this pandemic didn't happen, you wouldn't have had that time, nor would you have had that sort of like a lot of things came to a halt, and then you had that, like, okay, like, shit. And it obviously presented a lot of hard questions for people and hard times in their life, because they're usually, you know, running at 100 miles an hour, masking all their problems and masking all, you know, I guess the inconsistencies in their life and what they're not happy with. And then they really had to deal with it. And I hear things like that, and it's like, oh, I've done something that I probably didn't realize that I didn't enjoy as much, and it's made me go full pelt at something else because I realized I don't want to.
Yeah, and it was crazy too, because when we got down there, it was like we didn't even know if we were allowed to cross the borders at the time. It was like right in amongst that.
Yeah, bloody Mexicans.
So like we drove down. We had to go have this meeting with these people and get these. We had to get certified to be there, and then once we were, it was just a different world. But in my mind, I was like, I can't, like, I've just busted my ass for the last 5 years trying to succeed.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let a pandemic let me fail. Like, fuck that.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, and that was my attitude as well.
I was on this masterclass webinar 2 nights ago from like a summary of the year with this group that we have, and there's like 200 people on it. And it was amazing. It really sparked me. Like, I thought I was in a bad position because I just started charging. Like, I launched in July last year, and then in February this year, we just started trading. So we actually started turning fees on. And so literally, like, the week I started messaging all my clients saying, all right, fees are getting turned back on, I'm going to start working, the pandemic really hit. And I was like, oh, no. But it was fine. But I got through, like, I changed, we did free education, all that stuff. It was fine. But on this masterclass, there's 200 people, and probably 80% of them were on the front of closing their business. And across the board, all of these people have seen growth in their business, you know, from that mindset change. And the biggest one that hit me was a travel agent, right?
Yeah.
He literally started his business in February as a travel agent, and then the pandemic hit. And he went from being, he's like, I'm going to shut up business. He'll acquire 2 new travel agencies by the end of this year, of businesses that are shut down, and he'll have over 500% growth this year from being on the brink, you know. And he was like, it wasn't anything. It wasn't luck or anything. He was about to close down, and he sat down with himself for a day and just went, okay, where can I pivot? What can I do? And that was the story behind all of these businesses. You know, they were all on the brink of closing. Instead of closing, they went, how can I pivot? How can I take advantage of this bad situation? And they've all had like 80, 100, 200% growth. It's phenomenal. Like,
I've had one of my best years. Like, it's actually crazy. So yeah, when I thought that it wouldn't be, and I freaked out because I just bought a property, and I was like, in Feb, and then the pandemic hit. I was like, this ain't good. Like, got to settle at the end of the year. Like, no backing out.
Crazy, eh?
So,
I was in the Cook Islands. I was in the Cook Islands on my honeymoon, and we were getting told. All we knew that was that crazy fucking people in Sydney were stealing toilet paper, and we're like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Bullshit, you're lying. Dan thought the world was over, so we just started spending more on his honeymoon. He's like, the world's over. Flush that cash.
Fly business, staying in overwater bungalows. Fuck it. And we came home, and
I came back. I was like, bro, it's just shut down. Shit's still going. You still got to pay bills, man.
We walked back into, like, there was literally people in hazmat suits in the airport.
Oh,
and we were like, what the fuck is going on? And then we got back in
March?
The start of March. We got back the Friday. We got married Feb 21st. We got back. We were away 14 days. We got back the Friday, and the Saturday they made everyone start quarantining. We got home 1 day earlier.
Lucky.
And I was like, yeah, thank fuck, because I hadn't seen my kids for 4 weeks.
Yeah,
so
I was going to say, yeah.
How's the context here, but like, how's the contrast? I mean, like, my life hasn't changed. Like, I don't really notice it because I don't go out anymore. I stay at home and I run my business from home, and I'm just like, business as usual.
I know. I think it's the people who obviously use like their social lives as an outlet and whatnot to get out that have really struggled. Whereas
That's
I've
right.
just been loving being at home. I'm like, woo. Like,
I love that. I love not having to say yes or no to weddings.
It's so good. So good. Now that like the social lives are picking back up, I'm like, oh my God, I have like 3 nights this week that I have to be social. I can't work all the time. I actually got to stop. So
We'll get on fine, Danny. We'll get on fine.
Did you just bite you just bit your fingernail? You just bit your fingernail on a live podcast.
What do you mean?
Put it out of your mouth. It's disgusting. You're feral.
Well, I hear
I'll pick
like
me nose
seeing
if you want.
you.
I don't care.
Yeah. Like rip it on his finger.
I had like a box last night, so
I'm
my
pretty sure I
fingernails are
just
all
did
funny.
that before as well, though. I think I bit my nail too.
How about you mind your own business? How about that? How about you focus on yourself, champion?
Yeah, look, this is what you do. Look.
Oh, is
No,
that
what?
nail
What's
clippers on
different?
hand?
That's more disgusting. That's
Dude,
like
I wouldn't even
mine's just
know
ad
where to
hoc.
find my nail clippers. I just got them handy. What the hell?
You two are the reason that we're still in lockdown because you keep biting your fingers. And wash your hands, cut your nails, you'll be right.
How about this? How about I put
My
my
nails
feet
are
up in front of the camera and start picking my toes? How's that sound?
Could you reach your toes?
No
100%.
way. No way.
I'll throw head kicks all day. I'm flexible, eh?
Yeah, you can reach my head with your toes, not your head.